What's up, guys? It's Chris here to talk about this weekend's Hopkins Dawson bout or fight pay-per-view. Gonna try to keep it kind of short though because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but still wanted to get this out. Feels like I haven't done a boxing video in a while. It's weird because just to see that this bout's on pay-per-view, it's not exactly the fight that you would think would be on a pay-per-view. I don't want to say level, but just that fans would clamor for it so much that it would warrant being on pay-per-view. But you know, I guess in order to appease the fighters' salaries, that's the only way that they can make a profit. But so we'll see. As for the matchup itself, Bernard, of course, coming off the win in the rematch over Jean Pascal, where he won the WBC light heavyweight title, which he'll be defending here. After that first fight with Pascal, I really didn't think he would win the rematch. I thought, okay, all Pascal has to do is throw more punches than he did in the first fight. I was wrong. Hopkins schooled him for the most part. He got hurt late, but he survived. He had enough rounds in the bank to, be able to survive and cruise out to a decision. So Hopkins once again impressing in the latter stages of his career. As for Bad Chad Dawson, I believe he also fought on that same card. Took out Adrian Diacono for what it's worth. No disrespect to Diacono, but I just don't think he's on the level of those guys, even though he did have a couple memorable fights against Jean Pascal. As for this fight itself, it's weird because when Dawson was the champ at light heavyweight, or considered quote-unquote the man of the division, he could not get Bernard Hopkins to fight him for nothing. He kept trying to call out Bernard, and Bernard didn't want anything to do with it. Yet now that Bernard is the champion, Bernard is ready to give him a shot. Did Bernard see something in the Pascal fight with Dawson against Pascal? A flaw there that he thinks he can really exploit compared to the way he fought Pascal? That's the only thing I can really figure, because now Bernard has less of a reason to fight Chad Dawson than he did prior. Prior, he could have fought him if he was the champ. Now, what's the point of fighting Dawson? Sure, it's a good payday, but there's less of a demand for it than there was in the past. So I imagine it's because he sees some things he can exploit in Chad Dawson's style. Not just his style, but psychologically. Bernard Hopkins is one of, along with Floyd Mayweather, two of the best in the sport when it comes to playing psychological mind games on your opponent. They're really good at that stuff. And you would think, oh, well, it's just talk. Their opponent knows what to expect. It's just all talk. But no, before the fight, even in the fight, Bernard and Floyd will say stuff and just, they're really great tacticians in and outside of the ring. And Chad, not so much. He's shown some lapses in judgment inside the ring. And a guy like Hopkins is probably going to exploit that as well, master manipulator in a way, inside that squared circle. So, I really don't expect this to be an entertaining fight. I don't really, you never know though. You never know. There's been a lot of fights this year where I thought weren't going to be entertaining on HBO in particular, and they turned out to be really exciting fights. So maybe that's going to be the case here. I don't see it because neither fight, in my opinion, necessarily brings an exciting style. Although the Hopkins-Pascal fight did have its moments, as well as the Dawson-Pascal fights. But that's also, you have to add or consider Pascal into that equation. That's not the case here. I think early on, Dawson might have some success. Obviously he's the faster fighter. He's the younger fighter. I guess he's the hungrier fighter. Who knows? Does that even matter? I don't know. Maybe Hopkins is still the hungrier fighter, even at this stage of his career. But either way, I can't break this fight down too tactically, in all honesty. But I do think that Bernard Hopkins is going to win it. Now, I do think that Chad Dawson has the ability to win it, and the talent and the style to win it. I think he's got certain advantages, but I don't know. Like I said, I think that Hopkins sees something in Dawson that he can exploit, both technically and psychologically, and he's going to use everything he's got in his bag of tricks, which is a very deep bag, to exploit those and get a decision win over Chad Dawson. I don't see there being a stoppage in this fight either way at all. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a close decision, possibly even controversial. Wouldn't be the first time. It happened in Hopkins' career, even as of late, with a split decision, majority decision, things like that. But I see a relatively close fight, but one where Hopkins just gets the edge in more of the rounds than Chad Dawson. So I'm going to go Bernard Hopkins to win this by unanimous decision. As far as the undercard, it's got some pretty good, couple bouts I'll just mention real quick. You got Antonio DeMarco taking on Jorge Linares. DeMarco, he's got 2 losses. I guess the most notable one is the stoppage to Edwin Valero a couple years ago. He's kind of fell under the radar since that fight, but that was a pretty solid fight or performance for him. He hung in there for quite a while with Valero, which is an accomplishment in itself. As for Linares, this is a guy that was heavily hyped when he first came into the sport, or into the professional ranks, but then he had a setback. He lost, he got stopped against somewhat nondescript opposition. Since then, though, recently he's moved out to Los Angeles, I believe, training with Freddie Roach. That's always going to help, even if it's not necessarily training with Freddie Roach, but sparring at the wild card on a daily basis with the amount of talent that they have there, it's definitely going to benefit you no matter who you are as a fighter, in my opinion. So, although I like DeMarco as a fighter, he's pretty entertaining to watch. I favor Linares. I just think he's a more skilled boxer, and I just think he's going to outbox DeMarco, most likely to a decision. And also Danny Garcia taking on Kendall Holt. Danny Garcia is one of these prospects in the Golden Boy stable, Golden Boy Promotion stable that they're kind of high on, but I'm just not that high on this kid yet. I've seen him. He's got a lot of holes. I've seen him get hit pretty solid in some of his fights. It's not that I think he's a bad fighter by any stretch, but I just don't see him. And it's not that I don't think he can be a title holder at junior welterweight, but I don't ever see him being like the guy at any division, including 140 pounds, where he's taking on a guy who has had that position in the past in Kendall Holt. Kendall Holt, man, what an up and down career this guy's had. Highs, lows. But he's coming in off a high. He knocked out Julio Diaz earlier this year on Friday Night Fights in a knockout of the year contender. In a fight I think I actually picked against him. Bad pick on my part. But anyways. But yeah, I think, I don't want to say it's a step up too soon for Danny Garcia, because depending on how the fight plays out, I mean, if Garcia wins, obviously, what I'm saying here is all for naught. But I'm not for sure that I can ever see Danny Garcia being the better fighter, at least at this stage from what I've seen, than Kendall Holt. So I'm going to favor Kendall Holt, Maybe it's just because I don't like Danny Garcia's rap videos on YouTube. It's probably not the case, but it could be, you never know. But no, I'm going to favor Kendall Holt in this bout, and I think he's going to hit stoppage. He hits hard, he's faster, and like I said, Garcia's open to getting caught on counters. So I'm going to go with Kendall Holt to get a stoppage. I'm not going to call a round. I mean, that's just crapshoot, I ain't flipping a coin. But I definitely think Kendall Holt's, although Kendall Holt, I mean, there's been fights before I thought it was going to be really good fights with him, and they turned out to just be snoozers. I mean, he just didn't bring it. But I think coming off that knockout of Diaz, he's got the momentum to really go into this bout and go for the kill here. So I'm going with Kendall Holt to win this fight by stoppage. All right, guys. Want to hear your thoughts on the event? Most, any of those bouts that I mentioned, but in particular the main event. Are you guys looking forward to? Do you think it's pay-per-view worthy? Are you actually planning on ordering it? I'm not going to order it. I mean, I'll probably watch it, but I just can't see dishing out that kind of money for this fight. No disrespect to the fighters, but you got to pick and choose which events you buy. But yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the fight, who you see winning and why, and any other thoughts you may have. So for now, link to scienceminds.com and the information for the video as always, and to my Twitter. Till next time,